Hey guys, you're welcome back to my channel. Today, thank you so much for stopping by. In this video, we'll be cutting and sewing a bustier top with keyhole neckline. So if you're interested, keep on watching. The first point I'll be taking for this tutorial is half of my shoulder measurement, which is 8 inches. The next measurement I'll take is my neckline measurement. So for the neck depth, I'll take 3 inches, and for the neck width, I'll also take 3 inches, and I'll use my ruler to connect the two dots together. On my shoulder line, I'm going to go down by 1 inch for my shoulder slope, and I'll slant into the neckline like this. The next thing I'll do is to take the points I'll be needing for this tutorial. So the distance from my shoulder to my bust point is 10 inches. Distance from my shoulder to my chest line is 8 inches. Distance from my shoulder to my under bust line is 13 inches. Distance from my shoulder to my waistline is 16 inches. And the length of my top is 19 inches. I'll go ahead and rule a straight line across all these points that I've made. So I have my chest line, my bust points, my under bust point, my waistline, and my top length. So I'm going to mark half of my round armhole measurement on my chest line, and I'll connect that point to meet the point on my shoulder line into a straight line. So on the straight line, I'm going to mark what I have, and I'll mark the middle point. I'll indicate that with a point. On that middle point, I'm going to go in by ½ an inch, just like you see me doing. And on my chest line, I'm going to place my bust circumference divided by 4. I'll place it there, and then I'm going to connect. You guys know how we normally do our front armhole. So I'm going to connect from up there to meet the ½ an inch that I came in with, and to meet the point that I took as my bust circumference divided by 4. So after doing that, this is what I have. The next thing I'm going to do is to take my bust span measurement, which is half of my nipple to nipple measurement. Mine is 4 inches. So on my UBL, I'll take the 4 inches. On my waistline, I'll take the 4 inches, and on my top length, I'll take the 4 inches. I'm going to go ahead and connect all these dots into a straight line. After doing that, on my bust point, I'm going to go down by 1 inch, just like you see me doing, and I will indicate that with a point. The next thing I'll do now is to take in my dart so I can alter these basic bodies into a bustier pattern. So on my center front, which is the side facing me, I'm going to take ½ an inch on my UBL, on my waistline, and on the top length, and then I'm going to connect the point like this into a straight line. And on my side front, I'm going to take 1.5 inch. I'll take the same thing on my UBL, on my waistline, and on my top length, and I'll connect into a straight line. So after doing that, I'm going to extend my dart leg to meet the 1 inch point. Make sure it doesn't get to your bust point, and then I'm going to use my curve ruler to curve from my UBL to meet that point that I came down with, the 1 inch point. So if you don't understand, just do what I am doing. So I'm going to connect from this part also to meet the side. So if you don't have your ruler, you can use your free hand, but make sure the line is not straight. On my shoulder line, I'm going to measure what I have there, and I'll divide it into 2 equal halves. So what I have was 5 inches, and half of it is 2.5. I indicated that with a point, and I'm going to connect from that 2.5 inch to meet my bust point. That is the dart on the bust point. I did that with my pencil, so I'm not sure if you guys can see it very well. After doing that, I'm going to go up from my chest line by 1 inch. This is because I don't want my bust area to be exposed, but if you want yours to be exposed, there is no need to do that. So I went ahead to rule a straight line across the 1 inch point so that it will be visible for you guys to see. The next thing I'll do is to tighten my over bust to avoid any form of gaping. So on my side front, I'm going to take ½ an inch, and on the side facing me, which is my center front, I'll take 1 inch. Please note that I'm taking this dart from the demarcation that I have. So you are taking your dart immediately after that straight line that we took from the shoulder line. I hope you understand. So I'm going to connect like this to meet my dart leg. and I'll repeat the same thing for the other side. So I'm going to shade out this dart because we'll not be needing it. We are going to cut the dart out. The next thing I'll do is to curve out my sweetheart neckline. You can decide to leave it like this, but for me, I'm just going to slant from there to meet my center front on my chest line, and I'm also going to curve from the other dart leg to meet my armhole area, just like this. After doing that, next thing I'll do is to start placing my measurements. So on my chest line, I'm going to take my bust circumference divided by 4, which we already have. I'm going to replace my darts of 1.5 inches, and then I'll add 2 inches for my sewing allowance. On my waistline, I'll take my waist circumference divided by 4. I'll replace my dart of 2 inches, and I'll also add 2 inches for stitching allowance. On the top length line, I'll also place the same measurement that I have on my waistline because this is a crop top. There is no need to place my hip measurement there. After doing that, I'll connect all the dots together. The next thing I'll do is to create my basque effect waistline. So from the top length, I'll go down by 3 inches. You can do 3.5 or 4 inches. I think 4 inches is the maximum because if you go down too much, it will be difficult for you to stitch it down, especially if you are making a dress or if you be attaching this to a skirt, it will be difficult. So I'm going to slant like this to meet my waistline on the top length. So we have created our basque effect waistline. I'm going to connect all my dots together like this. After doing that, we are done with the drafting of this front pattern, and the length of my top, like I said before, is 19 inches. The basque effect is 3 inches, and this is optional. You don't have to draft this basque effect with me. I'm just going to go ahead and increase my dart like this because I'll be cutting the dart out, and then I'll go ahead and cut. So please pay close attention to where I'm cutting so you don't mess up your pattern paper. So guys, after cutting, I have my yoke, my center front and my side front, and you can see the basque effect. So the next thing I'll do is to modify my yoke. So I'm going to drop the side front and the center front aside, and I'm going to go down from my neckline on the yoke. I'll go down by 3 inches. After doing that, I'm going to connect from that 3 inches to meet the other side of the yoke. So just look at what I'm doing. This is optional. You can decide to use your yoke like this and then use a skin net to cut your yoke out, and you can decide to do what I'm doing. It totally depends on you. So I'll place my ruler like this and I'll connect in a curve. You can see that this is not a straight line, so I'm going to go ahead and cut this out. So if you look at the picture that we have on the thumbnail, you notice that the yoke is not straight. So this is what I'm trying to achieve with this curve. After cutting it out, this is what we have. So we'll go ahead and cut our back pattern. So guys, for the back pattern, I'll start by taking my point. So the first point I'll take is the distance from my shoulder to my bust point, which is 10 inches. I'll indicate that and then I'll rule a straight line across. After doing that, the next point I'll take is the distance from my shoulder to my chest line, which is 8 inches. I'll also indicate that and I'll rule a straight line across. The next point is the distance from my shoulder to my waistline, which is 16 inches. I'll rule a straight line across. So we don't need our underbust for this back pattern. And for the length, I'll take 19 inches. I'll also rule a straight line across. So the next thing I'll do is to take my zipper allowance of 1.5 inches and I'll rule a straight line. After doing that, I'm going to take my half of my shoulder measurement, which is 8 inches. I'll indicate it with a point. After doing that, I'm going to take my neck width, which is 3 inches, and my neck depth, because this is the back, I'll take 1 inch, and then I'll use my ruler to connect like this. on the point that I have on my shoulder line, I'll go down by 1 inch for my shoulder slope and I'll slant into the neckline. The next thing I'll do is to mark half of my round armhole measurement on my chest line, and then I'll connect that point to the point that I have on my shoulder slope into a straight line. I'll find the middle point of that straight line and I'll indicate it with a point like this. On my chest line, I'm going to take my bust circumference divided by 4 and I'll place that measurement there. After doing that, I'll use my ruler to connect from that point to meet the middle point that I have on my armhole like this. The next thing I'll do is to take in my dart. So I'm going to take half of my nipple to nipple measurement on my bust point, on my waistline and on the top length. Please do this also on your chest line. I forgot to do that, but I'm going to adjust it later. And on my chest line, I'm going to go down by 1 inch and then I'm going to connect all the dots into a straight line like this. And on my waistline, I'm going to take in my darts. I'll go out on the center back by half an inch and on the side back also by half an inch, and then I'll connect all the way to meet the chest line. Like I said before, you are going to connect to meet your chest line, and you're also going to go down from your chest line by 1 inch, not your bust point. So after connecting, I'm also going to connect down to meet the top length. So I'll go ahead and start placing my measurements. I already have my bust circumference divided by 4 on my chest line. I'm going to add 2 inches for stitching allowance. On my waistline, I'll take my waist circumference divided by 4. I'll replace my dart and I'll add 2 inches for stitching allowance. And I'm going to connect my points like this. So I have the same measurement that I have on my waistline. I have the same measurement on my top length. I'm going to adjust my armhole area and my neckline area and my zipper area. So on the zipper area, I have 1.5 inch. So on the top length, I'm going to take out 1 inch from the 1.5 inch that I have on my zipper area, and I'm going to use my ruler to slant from there to meet the line on my chest line like this. So this is to avoid any form of bulginess when I fix my zip. So after doing that, we are done with the drafting of this back pattern. I'll go ahead and cut. So guys, I went ahead to use my pattern to cut out my fabric, and I added allowance all the way around. I added half an inch allowance. This is my center front and it's on fold, both the lining and the main piece. These are my side fronts. I have 2 lining and 2 main piece, and this is my yoke. I have 2 of it because I'll be using the same fabric for the lining, and this is the back piece also. I also added allowance all the way around. I have 2 lining piece and 2 of the back piece. So we are going to start with the yoke. So I already went ahead to pin my yoke right sides facing each other. I'm going to sew the armhole area, the neckline and the down parts just like this, and then I'll use the shoulder area to turn everything inside out, and then I'll iron. For the main bodies, I've already gone ahead to iron my paper stay to it because I don't have air stay, and I also cut out my wording and I ironed it to it. So I have a detailed tutorial on how to cut and properly pad your bustier on my channel, so I'm going to leave the link in the comment section. I did it on camera to save time, so I've gone ahead to sew it, and I also sewed my lining in place just like I did for the main piece. So the next thing I'll do is to attach my yoke to the main bodies. So this is my yoke. I've already gone ahead to sew it. I've turned it inside out, and I've also ironed everything in place. So I'm going to place it on the main bodies like this. I'll cover it up with my lining, and then I'll go ahead and sew. So guys, after sewing, this is what I have. This is the outside and this is what the inside looks like. You can see that everything is neat. I also went ahead to sew the back off camera to save time. I added my zip, I took in my dart and I sewed in my lining. So this is what it looks like. I'll go ahead and attach the front and the back together. I'll also create any sleeve of my choice and you can decide to leave it like this if you want. So yeah, that brings us to the end of this tutorial. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please don't forget to like this video, leave your question in the comment section, subscribe if you have not, and I'll see you in the next one.